Hello everyone, welcome to this Virus/Lair of Darkness deck list for the Extra Zero Festival in Master Duel. I want to start off by saying that this is not a competitive deck, and it's more of a fun/troll deck. Because it's a control deck that relies on your opponent's cards, and as we know, decks that rely on your opponent's cards will never be good. But it's still a fun deck to play as it messes with your opponent's cards. With that being said, let's get on to the deck list. Okay, so here's the deck list. It's a 44 card deck and has a lot of trap cards. No hand traps except for Lancea because it's more of a fun deck, not to be competitive. So let's start with 3 Lillith, Lady of Lament. So Lillith allows you to tribute one monster to search your trap cards, and with Lair of Darkness on the field, you can quick effect tribute your opponent's monster to search your own traps, which is really good. If you don't have Lair of Darkness on the field, you have to tribute your own monsters, but it's still good because it allows you to search your trap cards. Next is 1 Malice, Lady of the Lament. I only run 1 because it needs 2 tribute instead of 1, and it only recycles traps from the banished or in your graveyard. Very situational, that's why I only play 1. 2 Witch of the Black Forest. So Witch of the Black Forest allows you to search almost all your monsters except for the boss monsters. If you tribute Witch of the Black Forest to activate your own cards, Witch of the Black Forest will still activate, giving you that search. Next, 3 Ahrima, the Wicked Warden. So Ahrima lets you search Lair of Darkness, and if you tribute monster on the field, you can search your boss monsters. This is your Lair of Darkness searcher and your boss monster searcher, so very important, that's why you want 3. Next is 2 Duke Shade. So Duke Shade allows you to tribute a monster on the field to special summon itself, and when it's summoned, you can recycle one of your boss monster basically, and it's also 2000 defense, which is required for one of your viruses. Next, 1 Artifact Lancea. So I actually never use this, but it's there to prevent cards from banishing, and it's very situational, but I just feel like putting that in. Next, 2 Caius, the Shadow Monarch. So this deck actually lacks punching power, so Caius, the Shadow Monarch, is there to, well, banish your opponent's card, and is a 2400 beater. You see, Lair of Darkness at the end phase actually spawns torment tokens on the field, and you use those to tribute summon Caius, the Shadow Monarch. However, you're not allowed to actually tribute your opponent's monster to tribute summon Caius, because you can only tribute monsters to activate card effects using Lair of Darkness, which is sad, but it's still good. Now, your original boss monster is Darkest Diabolos, the Lord of the Lair. So if you tribute your own monster, you can special summon this card from your hand or your graveyard, and you can tribute a dark monster to shuffle one of your opponent's card from the hand to either the top or the bottom of the deck. I rarely use this effect. I mostly just use it as a 3000 beater and as tribute for the other viruses. Now, here is your real boss monster, Lord of the Heavenly Prison. Now, Lord of the Heavenly Prison protects your backbone and is a 3000 beater. You see, Lord of the Heavenly Prison has an effect where you can reveal it, and your set cards are protected until the end of your opponent's turn, so they cannot Harpy's Feather Duster all your precious trap cards. Also, if you activate a set spell and trap cards on the next turn that you revealed it, you can special summon this card from your hand, and then you can set any spell and trap card from your deck. So whatever virus that you need or whatever trap cards that you need in that situation, you can set it, but do remember that it gets banished at the end phase of the next turn. Also, you cannot activate both effects on the same turn. but this is actually the boss monster of this deck. This saved me so many times, and it searched the important trap cards, so yeah, this is the boss monster of the deck. So that was all the monster that you need. It's only a few monsters because the main point of this deck is to use your opponent's monster as tribute instead of your own. So on to the spell and traps. So 1 Monster Reborn, 1 Terraforming because you really need your field spell, 3 Lair of Darkness. So this is your field spell, this is the bread and butter of your deck. Your deck pretty much lives and dies by this field spell, very important. The best card in the deck, 2 Mystic Wok. So Mystic Wok allows you to tribute 1 monster to gain either its attack or defense as life points. But with Lair of Darkness, you can tribute your opponent's monster to gain their monster's attack or defense as life points. And the amount of times that I tribute my opponent's boss monster with Mystic Wok is just so funny. That's why I play 2 of these, and it's the best card in the deck. And it actually procs Lord of the Heavenly Prison. Next, 2 Called By. So they won't ash your search for your field spell. That's pretty much all the spells that I play. Now we go to the trap cards and all your viruses, starting with the original virus card, Crush Card Virus. So you tribute a monster with 1000 or less attack to destroy all monsters on your opponent's field and hand with 1500 or more attack. But your opponent takes no damage until the end of the next turn, and your opponent can destroy 3 monsters with 1500 or more attack in their deck. So I'm just gonna say it, I don't really like this virus card because most of the time it helps your opponent more since they can destroy 3 monsters of their choice from their deck, and it allows them to set up their graveyard. Also, you cannot actually damage your opponent until the end of the next turn. So I really don't like this card, but this is the most available virus card in your deck because most of your monsters are 1000 attack or less, and destroying all monsters your opponent controls with 1500 more attack is actually pretty good. Just the downside is just not that appealing to me, but I play 3 because again it's the most available virus for your monsters to use. Next, 2 Torrentials because trap cards and destroys monsters. Next virus card is the Deck Devastation virus. So you tribute a monster with 2000 or more attack to destroy all monsters with 1500 or less attack in your opponent's hand, field, and for 3 turns whatever card that they draw. So I started off this deck playing 2, but this 2000 or more attack doesn't happen too often with your own monsters. You have to rely on your opponent to control a monster with 2000 or more attack. And destroying monsters with 1500 or less attack does destroy their starter cards, but I find that it's more situational. That's why I bumped it down to just 1. And replaced it with actually the next virus that I started off only playing 1 and now I play 2, which is the Eradicator Epidemic virus. So we have to tribute a monster with 2500 or more attack to destroy either all spell or all trap your opponent has. So at first I thought this was not a good card because 2500 or more attack is more than the 2000 needed for deck devastation. But the amount of times that I needed to destroy my opponent's spell or trap happened so often that I chose to use 1 more Eradicator Epidemic versus the Deck Devastation virus. And most of the time I actually set it using Lord of the Heavenly Prison's second effect, then activate it on the next turn to destroy all their spell and trap cards. Mostly traps. Traps are annoying. Next is the Full Force virus. So Full Force virus needs you to tribute a monster with 2000 or more defense. It's the only virus that actually requires you to have a specific defense, and that's pretty much why you use Took Shade because it has 2000 defense. And you get to destroy all monsters your opponent controls with 1500 or less defense. So monsters with 1500 or less defense is actually a lot of monsters, and it's very destructive. But again, the cost of having a monster with 2000 or more defense is just not something your deck can do on a regular basis, and requires your opponent to have a monster with 2000 or more defense. That's why I just only played one. Next, Heavy Storm Duster, because again, like I said, spell and trap cards where I was having a hard time with decks that play a lot of spell and trap cards. The next one, Evenly Match, in case your opponent goes first. One Imperm, in case your opponent goes first. And one Grinning Grey Virus. So this is the last virus card that there is, and it needs you to tribute a monster with 3000 or less attack, to destroy card on your opponent's deck for each 500 attack the monster that you tributed had on the field. And then if you tributed a monster with 2000 or more attack, you can destroy all cards that they drew that are monsters. And cards that are destroyed by this effect cannot activate their effect on the same turn. So on paper, Grinning Grey Virus is actually pretty good. The problem is that it only destroys cards on the deck, and it doesn't change the cards on the field. So I found that this is a win more kind of card. That's why I bumped it down to 1. I mostly use it just because you can tribute any monster with 3000 or less attack. So with Lair of Darkness, I can tribute pretty much any monster my opponent has. Then next, one Solemn and one Horn of the Heaven. So I only play this because I find it funny. I can negate my opponent's monster by tributing their own monster to negate their own monster summon. So yeah, that's why I just play this card. You can cut it out, it's not that good. It's a dead card most of the time. And finally, one Macro Cosmos. So I only play one because I find this card too cheat, and if you want to play a full powered version of this deck, you actually have to play 3. But Macrocosmos basically says that all cards sent to the graveyard is banished instead. So combined with your deck virus destruction, all cards that was destroyed by the virus will be banished instead of being sent to the graveyard. And that is very devastating to a lot of decks. And also just having Macrocosmos on the field also stops a lot of decks. That's why this is very strong, but I don't like to play it because again, this is a fun deck, but if you do want to play the full powered version, you need to play 3 of these. So that's pretty much all the cards. If you want to play a 40 deck, you cut out the Horn of Heaven, Lancea, because it never comes up, and one of the trap cards, or one of the, I don't know, there's not really a much cards you can cut out with this, but that's pretty much it for the deck list. And now we'll go to some replays of how the deck works.